Duncan Robinson is one of the most coveted restricted free agents this summer as we approach NBA free agency in 4 or 5 hours from the recording of this video. And so we're going to be talking in this video as to whether I think he is going to be overpaid this summer. It is heavily rumored that he is going to get in and around the range of 16 to 18 million per season, but it could rise as high as 20 depending on what the offer sheets are that come in for him. And Miami are expected to match pretty much anything that comes in unless he does get a significant deal, potentially approaching that 20 a year range. But anything lower than that, Miami are expected to match. So we're going to talk about whether I think that is a good deal for Duncan Robinson or if he is going to be getting overpaid. Whether that's going to be for Miami, whether that's going to be for another team, that remains to be seen. And I will talk about that fit when that signing gets made. But I just want to talk about what I think Duncan Robinson should actually make in the NBA moving into the next few years of his career. So when we talk about Duncan Robinson, we're talking about one of the greatest stories as far as coming up from nothing in the NBA. He broke into the league at age 24, playing 15 games with Miami, and not shooting the ball that well for a guy who was a shooter. He took 2.3 attempts per game, shot 28.6% from deep, but that's what he was known to do in the G League. He was the guy in the G League. He really grinded out. He worked through undrafted, got into the G League, and did his thing. Now he's turned himself into one of the best shooters in the NBA. And I think some of the salary comparisons that we're seeing in that 16 to 18 million range is because of guys like Joe Harris and Davis Bertans that are alongside him as some of the best shooters in the NBA and have gotten comparable money. But now here's my thoughts on those signings. Joe Harris, I think, is just overall a better player than Duncan Robinson, and that's not a knock on Duncan Robinson. Just Joe Harris has more experience. I think he's a better playmaker. He can do more off of the dribble and more offensively than just shoot the three. And Duncan Robinson occasionally will do a little bit more than shoot from three. But Robinson took 8.5 shots per game from deep last year and 10 from the field. So generally speaking, he's pretty much only shooting threes. Joe Harris does for the most part too, but he can take you off the dribble a little bit and can play make a little bit. He does offer you a little bit more, whereas Duncan Robinson really is, I'm just shooting threes. Now, Duncan Robinson's defense has improved from when he first came to the league. It is a bit more respectable now than it was. He's not a complete liability on the defensive end. But he's still not an elite defender by any stretch, but he does have decent length at 6'7". He can provide a little bit of length there at the small forward position, or on a shooting guard, depending on what type of lineup you want to roll with. So he's fine there. But Joe Harris, I'd argue, at close to 20 million, is a lot of money for someone who is very much a three-point specialist. A very good one, but it's still a lot of money. You talk about other three-point specialists in the league. Buddy Hield, who's getting paid over 20 million a year, for me is a very large overpay, and I think is to many teams around the league as well, and it's just why Sacramento are looking to get rid of him as they start to have to pay some of their younger players. They want to build around other different players on the team, and Buddy Hield is really restricting their cap flexibility. You look at Davis Bertans. Washington are 1 year into that Davis Bertans contract, and they are already looking to trade him because he has too much money, and it's an overpay. And so this is no knock on Duncan Robinson, or Joe Harris, or Davis Bertans. I think three-point shooters and spacers like that are very valuable on a team. I think they're just being overvalued right now from a salary standpoint. And so I think Miami, or any team that does sign Duncan Robinson, if it does start approaching 18, 20 million a season, is going to end up regretting it. Every team so far that has signed a true just three-point shooter, a true floor spacing three-point shooter that doesn't offer you a ton else, anytime they get around 18 to 20 million a year, it ends up being a bit of an overpay. Joe Harris has a little bit more versatility than those other players, and he's on a winning team where he can be a complementary piece and their way over the luxury tax. So that's a bit of an exception. But otherwise, in most scenarios, if you start approaching 20 million for a pure three-point specialist who doesn't offer you a ton outside of that, it usually ends up being a bad contract. If you can get someone for Duncan Robinson in the range of 12 to 15 million, that's great. That's probably not what's going to happen. And so I would caution to any team, or no teams watching this video, but I would caution to any team that is looking at Duncan Robinson this summer, or Miami, that is most likely going to look to retain him this summer. Just be aware of what you're signing him to. Be aware of the precedent three-point specialists that have been signed over the last couple of summers, and how that deal has looked a couple of years later after signing these players to big deals worth close to 20 million a season. That is my thoughts on Duncan Robinson as he approaches restricted free agency, and we approach free agency opening up later today at 6 p.m. Eastern. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below on what Duncan Robinson should get paid this summer versus what he will get paid this summer. That being said, if you guys did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I will be continuing to keep you up to date on all of the free agency news that happens tonight, tomorrow, and through the next coming weeks of the NBA offseason. Be sure to stay tuned and subscribe for all of those updates and my thoughts on all of the moves across the NBA. That being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will have 2 more videos coming out before free agency starts today. One will be on Evan Fournier and his salary demands and where I think he could end up, as well as there's now talks that Tobias Harris could be traded from Philly. We're going to talk about that and the implications of potentially Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons on their way to Philadelphia. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.